Okay, we're rolling.
Hey, welcome back to the How to Podcast series. It's Dave with you. I hope you're doing well. It's January 20th when I'm recording this. I'm in my basement of my house. I have my fireplace on beside me, nice and warm, and having a cup of coffee. So thank you for those who continue to help support the show with my Buy Me a Coffee. Thank you. But I'm here with you, and I want to talk to you about something that I see in a lot of Facebook groups. And I think a lot of people have this misunderstanding about measurement of podcasts and what's growing, what's better, what's happening, and what we should be focusing on in podcasting 2026 and beyond. I don't think it's the download anymore. I'm pretty sure of it. And when I see people say on Facebook, I've got 5 downloads, is that good? Well, it depends on a lot of different things, but I think we need to get away from the downloads. I'm going to share a few reasons why the word download and hyperfixating on your download is not the best measurement for you as a podcaster, and a word of caution for new podcasters around watching your downloads or your measurements for your show. I want you to have a different perspective as you start your show. But I'm glad you're here. We're going to go after downloads. As podcast measurement moved away from the almighty download, what should we be measuring going forward? Glad you're here. Let's keep going. So has podcast measurement quietly moved away from the almighty download? Well, for anyone taking podcasting seriously in 2026, trying to grow your show and trying to reach as many people as possible, I would say yes. Podcast measurement is quietly moving away from the download, or at least it should be shifting that way in conversation, in how we teach podcasting to new podcasters. This whole thing about a download is not exactly what you think it is. So we need to focus in on this a little bit. I want to frame this episode around this tension. For years, podcasters have been trained to worship the download as the one and only metric that really matters for podcasters. But downloads can be gamed. Downloads can be purchased. Downloads can be horribly misunderstood. A download is not a guarantee that anyone, anywhere, has actually listened, cared, or even will ever come back to your content. I'm pulling my phone right now. So I listen on Spotify. Don't come for me. I love Spotify. Leave me alone. I listen on Spotify, and whenever I follow a show, like your show, I'd love to follow your show. Let me know, howtopodcast.ca. If you don't mind someone listening on Spotify, some people are pretty ignorant around this. But anyways, side tangent averted. When I look at when I go into my library, I can see all the podcasts and all the things, the music, everything I'm listening to. I see my liked songs folder. So right now I've got like 1,660 songs in there. That's great. And then I have my new episodes folder. It's got a little bell and it's updated today. So when I click on that, I can see all of the podcasts that I follow. I'm actively participating in following their show. I can see, there's something from Alex Sanfilippo. Woohoo! I can see a bunch of different things in here. These are all unplayed podcasts. These are episodes I haven't listened to. So they're showing on my phone. Now, on some phones, that means it's been, quote, downloaded from the host. And if I click the little check mark that I said that I listened to the episode, even though I haven't, it could signal for you on your hosting site a play. Did I listen to your episode? No, there's a little check mark. I can just click the check mark. It disappears from my list of to listen to episodes, and it marks it as complete. That could translate, not everywhere, but that could translate to back to you as a guy in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, hit play on your episode. But did I? No, I didn't. I didn't listen to any of it. I just clicked the little check mark to get it out of my list. So as well, I can click a button and there's a little arrow that points down on the screen for that episode, and that's my download. So when I click that, that definitely is going to signal a download of the episode. What is that? Oh, well, I'm downloading it actually to my device. I'm basically removing the episode from playing it online, connected to the internet through Wi-Fi or data. It actually lives on my phone. So it's my copy on my phone. And when I download a copy of your episode with that little arrow down button to my device, if you go change the original episode and update it and fix a mistake, I have the unfixed mistake when I downloaded it. So you can't fix what's on my phone. You can only fix what's available through the internet. So I can download on my phone, which would signal back to your hosting site a download. But have I listened? No. So when we talk downloads, and I see people on like Buzzsprout Facebook group, I see people in a bunch of different Facebook groups about podcasting talking about downloads and how can I grow my downloads. I see people selling growth in downloads. I get the emails all the time. You probably do as well. People wanting to get you more downloads, and you pay them $100, you'll get, 1,000 downloads. Well, it doesn't mean anything because it doesn't mean anybody actually listened to what you said. And only a tiny portion of a played episode of your podcast on a podcast player actually would be all qualifies for you to get a listen or a download or however you want to call it. So you don't even have to listen to the entirety of a podcast episode to actually signal back to the host of the show that this podcast episode was played. But I didn't listen to it. I listened to 1 minute of your 45-minute episode, 44 minutes. I have no idea what you said because I left. So when we talk downloads as being the almighty measurement of podcasting, I think we're missing the boat here. Industry voices like James Cridland over at podnews.net have been emphasizing this instead of download, emphasizing time spent listening and other engagement-based metrics as more meaningful ways to understand whether a show is working, whether it's growing, whether you're keeping your audience, and people are listening longer. So has the download died? Maybe not, but it's no longer the king. Now, I want to talk to specifically brand new podcasters who are just starting out. Less than 10 episodes, less than 20 episodes. You're just baby brand new in podcasting. Please don't even bother looking at your stats. Don't even go there. There's no point in obsessing over how many people listen to episode 2 of your brand new podcast. You need to focus your attention somewhere else. To focus on your downloads and your audience growth in the first 10 to 20 episodes, the downloads you're seeing, I would say, for the most part, are basically noise. They're just noise. They're a distraction when you're starting your show. A tiny audience, it's inconsistent release schedule. You haven't found your voice yet. You're figuring out all the buttons. You've never created content. You've never been on a mic. You have a lot of stuff that you got to work through. You have no back catalog that listeners can fall in love with. And they make your numbers volatile and actually quite discouraging when you first start out as a podcaster. What I would love for you to do, instead of focusing on your downloads early, and that often will lead to bad decisions, by the way, people quitting too early, for example, stop chasing the trends and copying other shows. Stop being disappointed when you hear other people in Facebook groups say they have 100,000 downloads on their podcast, and you're like, oh, I got one download. Stop obsessing over that and focus on what really matters. Focus on the metrics that matter. For example, am I putting out an episode that's of good quality on a regular basis? Whatever your regular basis is. It's your show. Am I getting better at hosting, interviewing, and telling better stories? Am I improving? Over time, over each episode, am I getting a little bit better at this? A little more comfortable? A little bit more clearer in my content? Are my episodes taking shape? And are a few real people reaching out, replying, or sharing the show? Real people is a key part there. Okay? If we scrubbed out all of the AI all of the other services that pull our podcasts for information and technically could flag a listen or a download because they're going into our content to grab stuff, AI models and whatever, those could be signals coming back to you of a listen, but they're not actually people. They're just bots or computers. They're not people. They're not people who will engage with you and leave you messages or reach out to you. Are a few real people out there actually reaching out to you? Focus on that before you focus on the number of people who listen to your show. Treat the first few months of your podcast release as content practice. It's not a scoreboard. You're not there yet. So stop putting yourself through all this mental anguish that you're not as good as so-and-so. You're not as good as that podcast. You don't have as many people as that podcast. You're not hitting the same success metrics as that person over there. You're not making money with your podcast. It's been out for 3 weeks. Stop. And take a break from your stats from the beginning. Do not be obsessed with your stats. You don't know how to read them. You don't understand what they mean. And they could discourage you from continuing. Put your head down. Be podcast first and focus on creating content. Do that for 10 to 20 episodes before you even start asking questions about, is this good enough? Because the Facebook groups are littered with people with fragile egos trying to figure out, am I good enough to be a podcaster? Well, you turned on the mic, so yeah, you're good enough to be a podcaster and we need you. So focus on your content and not who's listening when you first start. The problem with downloads. Downloads are a blunt, unreliable tool. It's kind of like the hammer of tools. It's pretty well good for very little, but people try to use it for everything. A download is triggered when an app grabs the file, your podcast, from your hosting site. It does not prove the episode was actually listened to, finished, or even started in some cases. Downloads can be inflated by auto download settings. So think of it in the context, I know this is outside of traditional podcasting, but think of it on YouTube. You watch a video on YouTube and it automatically starts playing the next one. Like it didn't even give you a chance to click on it. It just starts playing. That other video that's after the video you just watched has now got stats because it played automatically. So some of the downloads can be inflated. Some of the downloads can be distorted by players re-downloading after updates or partial plays. That could happen. Some downloads can be manipulated through shady services like that sell fake traffic. They have a whole bunch of phones and they hit play on your podcast from all these different phones and you pay them for it. This aggressive cross-promo campaigns I've seen and things in podcasting, they never convert to real, true, loyal listeners and community for your podcast. Downloads aren't dead, but they're deeply overrated. Why time spent listening really matters. Again, I'm going to go back to what James Cridland from Pod News talks about often on his show. This TSL, this time spent listening approach is a better metric than downloads. It's a core metric that's going to take us into the future, I think, as podcasters. So less talk about, are these downloads good enough? More about, is this listen time good enough? Is a better metric, I think, for all of us to consider. And the best way to see time spent listening, well, if you're on YouTube, you can watch each episode. You can see exactly where people start. Everybody starts at 100. And you can drop off in a heartbeat or you can continue. You'll see the length of people's listen or view on YouTube by going in your analytics through YouTube Studio. On Apple and on Spotify, you can also go in and see episode to episode how you're doing and see where people are listening, how long they're listening, and where they drop off. Time spent listening is more important than downloads. A high TSL, or time spent listening, shows that your content is relevant and engaging. People like it. We've talked about this on the show many times, and it's worth repeating. If you owned an app and you wanted people to be on the app longer, would you, as the owner of the app, favor contributors who brought people to the app and people stayed on the app longer over contributors who brought people to the app and their content was terrible or whatever, and people left as soon as they hit play, they stopped. As an app creator, if you were the creator of Apple or Spotify or Audible or YouTube, you would want people to come to your platform and stay. So it makes sense that people who bring people to the platform and those new people, those viewers and listeners, they come and they stay. Those people who create content that are so engaging that people come and stay, it's sticky, it makes sense, logically, that an app would favor the creators who have people who come and stay longer over people who have content where people come and leave right away. That just makes sense. That's a logical conclusion that we can basically all agree on. So make great content that keeps people longer. I'm doing little tricks in my show right now. You may or may not know. Depends on how long you listen to the show. Where I'm purposely doing things to encourage listeners to listen longer. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then you haven't listened long enough. So stick around. There's something coming. I'm just telling you. Do something to make people listen longer. Your content is relevant and engaging if your time spent listening indicators are going well. Also, TSL, time spent listening, will help with your pacing and your structure to keep people from dropping off. If you notice you have a 1-hour podcast and everybody leaves 30 minutes in, try a 30-minute episode. Maybe your podcast is too long for the amount of content you have. Maybe you can cut it up. Maybe you could podcast less often and make your podcast episodes shorter. So there's some things your audience is telling you through your listening stats. And if you're not paying attention, you're not getting the message. Also, a high TSL indicator will help you to really build your connection, not with just people who come in, click play, and leave, right? It's not a drive-through. It's a sit-down restaurant. It's a fancy dinner. All of the main courses, relaxed. It's not a drive-through where people throw food into your window as you drive by, right? That's the difference between a download. A download is a drive-through, and a TSL, time spent listening, is a nice, relaxed family dinner. What I would encourage podcasters to do is to watch. Watch your average listening time per episode. Watch the percentage of the episode that was completed, how far people got, and also where people typically drop off. First 5 minutes, the end, you do that commercial that everybody hates. You signal to your audience that we're almost done because the music starts, people leave. What is it? If listeners bail at the same point every episode, that is your most important piece of feedback that your audiences will ever give you. Watch for those things. Watch for it. They're telling you something. What should we be measuring going forward as podcasters? Well, I can tell you it's not the download. Time spent listening and completion rate, I would think, is number one for us. Are people actually listening most of the way through to our episodes? You're still here? Great. Return listeners. How many people come back episode after episode? Meaningful interactions. Replies to emails, DMs, comments, reviews, people joining your list or your community, my meetup, people leaving comments on Spotify in the episode. You can actually leave a comment right in the episode. You can't do that on Apple. So go to Spotify, listen on Spotify, because you can leave me comments. I want to hear from you. Episode saves, follows, and subscribers does signal that someone wants to hear from you again. We're over 712 followers on Spotify for this show. Great. That's a good indicator. It's going up. I get sad when it goes down. I'm a human. But that's a good indicator, right? Someone wants to hear from this show. Downloads would be the very last in the list. There's still some useful context to a download, but over time, I think you're going to see people walking away from this term, and it's not going to be as common as it was in the early days of podcasting. So instead of asking, what's a successful podcast? How many downloads do I need? Flip it around and say, what's a good podcast episode? What's a good time spent listening measurement that I should be working towards? It's a big difference between a download and time spent listening. So as we wrap up here, just two things. One, for new podcasters, put away all your analytics for the first 90 days. Measure your own consistency. Measure your own development of your content. Measure your own ability on the microphone. Measure those things, because that's something in your control. When you first start your podcast, you have no control over who listens and how they found you, because it's brand new. So ignore the downloads for the first 90 days at least. Don't even go to that tab on your hosting site. Again, you probably don't even know what you're looking at. So don't get obsessed with that. And don't let that be the measurement of your success. Like, that's not the reason I'm going to podcast. Focus on the reason you created your show in the first place. And for experienced podcasters, pull up your analytics and ask better questions. Not how many people downloaded my podcast, but instead, how long did people stay with my show? And if you've never been on Apple's dashboard for your podcast, you've never been on Spotify for creators for your podcast. And again, you don't have to be hosted on Spotify for creators to see Spotify analytics. Anyone on any hosting site can claim their show on Spotify and see more detail than you're going to see on your hosting site. So stop using your hosting site as your main measurement of success. They only give you the information that they can get, and it's third-party data. They don't own the platforms reporting to them. So they're at their best. They're trying their best to do what they can with what they have, but they're not servicing you the way Apple and Spotify can. I would focus on Apple, Spotify, and if you're on YouTube, which you should, on YouTube, and focus on those three as my decision points on if my show has good retention. People are coming, people are staying. And if you look at your numbers episode to episode, week to week, month to month, and you see it getting better, you're growing. You're doing great. It doesn't matter what your hosting site tells you. 3 listens, awesome. That means crap to me. What means more to me is 3 people that came to my show and listened to the entire episode, reached out to me, left me a comment. I've now had a virtual coffee with me. Some of them might even donate to the show through my Buy Me a Coffee. One of them signed up for my meetup, and now we're friends through meetup.com. That's a measurement of success, not 3 random people or computers or bots who clicked or downloaded my show but never even listened to a word I said. So stop focusing on things that don't matter as much and focus on where we're going, right? Always focus on what's coming up in the future. Time spent listening. Podcasting future belongs to the creators who measure attention and connection, not just traffic. Downloads had their moment. Time spent listening is the path forward. And if I see you in on Facebook groups asking about downloads, I'm going to lovingly and gently try to persuade you that you're asking the wrong questions. Please focus on engagement. Focus on people who come to your show and stay. Those are the people that matter the most, not a nameless, faceless, most likely fake download number. Focus on time spent listening, and you will watch your podcast grow. And for new podcasters, don't even bother looking at your stats for 90 days. Give yourself 3 months of creating content before you even start asking the question, is this good? You don't even know what good is yet. Focus on building your podcast first. Then we can talk. And if you ever want to go through your numbers together, I'm happy to do this anytime. And unlike some other podcast gurus, I won't expose your numbers to my audience. I won't get on here and mock you like some other podcast gurus will do. I won't use you as an example, but I would love to help you. howtopodcast.ca. Time spent listening. Are you still here? Well, then stick around for a second. There's something else coming. Have a good day. So I get asked quite often, usually at the end of a podcast, like right now, Dave, how can we help you? Like, how can we, as a listener, like, support the show? Can we come rake your leaves? Can we cut the grass? Shovel the snow? Watch your dog? Help you move? What can we do? Clean your dishes? Oh, that'd be interesting. Well, if you can't do that because, you're in Poland, maybe you can help us by supporting us with our Buy Me a Coffee. It's right there on our website. And, it just will help us to A, stay fueled because, we drink a lot of coffee around here, and it helps the show. So if you want to help us, it's out of the goodness of your heart. I can tell you that listening to the podcast to this point, you've already helped us so much. But I do have people saying, Dave, I'd love to give back something small, even just to the show. Buy Me a Coffee link is on our website at howtopodcast.ca. And you can support the show that way. It would mean a lot to have you on our team supporting what we do here. If you find value in the show, then that's great. Share the show, tell somebody about it. And when somebody says, Dave, I want to start a podcast, who should I check out? Oh, you should go check out the How to Podcast series because of all the great co-hosts and all the things that happen here, the meetups, everything. And I would appreciate that. And then fill our cup once in a while if you can. But again, thank you so much for being here and supporting the How to Podcast series. Take care. Talk soon. Okay, so along the lines of time spent listening, for those that are still here, you now know why I've been talking about this. I've been doing question and answers as of episode 500. This is episode 563. And I've been doing bonus content at the end of every episode since episode 500. Did you know that? No, probably didn't, because you probably haven't listened to the entire podcast. So that's why I do this at the end. So the question came through to us here on the podcast around measurement, again, of success and what does good look like. And I just want you to understand that every podcast is different. You are different than every other host. Your listeners are different than every other podcast listeners. Your content is different. The time, the place, your story, your connection with your audience. There are so many factors that separate you from everyone else. It's hard to measure exactly your show compared to someone else's show as far as how good it is. At the end of the day, it's your show. And you need to be comfortable with the output. You need to be comfortable with what you're doing. And if you feel good about what you're doing, then that's probably the best measurement to start with. Are you growing? Are you getting better at this? Are you getting more confident? That's a great measurement. But like we talked about in the episode as you were listening, the best measurement is when you start getting real interaction with real people. So I've been cultivating that through my Spotify plays. I know not everybody's on Spotify, and some people don't like Spotify at all, and on, yada, yada. But in Spotify, you can actually leave comments in the episode, which is great. In YouTube, you can leave comments in the episode, which is also great. So my encouragement for you is to be in the comments with your community. You might be getting engagement right now and doing quite well, but you are totally unaware that you have comments sitting there unread in Spotify because you never go on there because you're not hosted there. Again, you don't have to be hosted on Spotify to get access to the comments from your listener on Spotify. You just have to connect your podcast to the back end of Spotify so that you can actually get in and respond to these people. So don't leave them hanging. I send messages out to podcasters who podcast about podcasting or other shows that I enjoy. I leave them comments in the Spotify platform because that's where I listen. And I hear nothing back from them because I can tell that Spotify is not their priority. And that's fine. That's their decision. But you're missing out. You are missing out on interaction with your people if you decide to say that you don't care about Spotify. It's your choice. You can do whatever you want, but just understand you're ignoring a portion of your audience. And that's sad. And I would really encourage you to go and at least look, because you might have some people there that would love to reach out to you and connect with you. They don't care about your personal beliefs about Spotify, but they're, as a listener, they are on Spotify. They may not care if you believe a podcast on YouTube is a podcast, but they're on YouTube and they're leaving you messages and you're not talking to them. So if you are interested about growing your show, it's more than a download. Time spent listening is the most important thing, and connection through your audience through comments. Encourage it by showing up and being part of the conversation. That's my encouragement for every podcaster. It's time to start focusing on the things that matter. It's time to start focusing on your audience. Thanks for being here. Take care.